if you're purposefully buying real estate, do not purposefully on purpose go buy a negative cash flowing property. Like, don't do that. So first of all, is you have to have some cash flow. My minimum is 300 a month gross cash flow, right? To
Like
be
it.
acceptable. And that's not for $1 million property either, because that would be stupid, right? I'm talking affordable properties under 250, under $200,000. You should at least cash flow 300 a month.
Hello and welcome to the Infinite Financial Freedom Podcast, where we empower you with financial literacy and guide you on your journey to financial freedom. I'm Josh Mettle, and today I'm thrilled to welcome back Casey Franchini, founder of Brick by Brick Wealth. Casey built a 7-figure rental portfolio and 6-figure income using a unique low-risk method she calls the cake method, which I absolutely love. I could not be more aligned around this method. And with over 18 years of real estate experience now, including surviving the 2008 crash as a broker in California, holy shit, that was scary. She now teaches beginners how to confidently buy just one rental property a year without flipping, BRRRR model, or chasing 100 doors. She's also a homeschooling mom, an entrepreneur, and an inspiring example of building financial freedom on your own terms. I'm so excited to have you back. Welcome to the show, Casey.
Thank you so much, Josh. I'm just beaming. You know, when you smile so much, your cheeks hurt. That's where I'm at right now. That's an amazing intro. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. It's all very true. I am a follower of your Instagram page, and I love how you weave in the entrepreneur journey, the real estate investor journey, steady, one home at a time, long-term strategy with this freedom of being a mom and all the great experiences that you share about your family on Instagram. So you're doing an amazing job. You're really an inspiration.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. It's a lot of work, but I do think that people get overwhelmed when they see what everyone's accomplishing on social media. And many people feel unworthy that they can't do this or can't do that. And they can't be like these big gurus and these multi-millionaires or billionaires that they see pumping out tons of content all the time. For the regular person, it feels a little defeating. So
Totally.
I'm just out there to say, hey, I homeschool 3 kids. I was a stay-at-home mom my whole life. I had one real job, one real W-2 job all of 3 months. Otherwise, have been an entrepreneur, balancing being a wife, a mom, building businesses, buying rental properties, renovating, and doing all those things. And it can be done. And you don't have to do all those fancy strategies. You don't have to take on a second job doing the BRRRR method and flipping and all these things. Slow and steady can win the race. And that's just what I'm out here to preach.
Hashtag inspiration. I love it. So let's talk a little bit about what you do at Brick by Brick Wealth as it relates to your real estate coaching. And I'd also like to pick up, I believe you had a tenant from hell story that kind of changed your approach to investing. And perhaps that was part of the genesis of how you came up with the cake method. So kind of walk us through that whole ecosystem that you've created at Brick by Brick Wealth and where it came from.
Sure. So, like I said, I have 3 kids. I moved from Southern California when I was 30, and we have been in Western Tennessee for now 12, 13, I'm 43. So I guess this 12 years. My son, we moved here when he was 3 weeks old and he's 12. So that's how I count how long I've been
That's
here.
right.
But when we moved here, we didn't know anybody and we had no friends. We had just bought our first primary home and we were wondering, well, how are we going to start investing in rental properties if I was promised to be the stay-at-home mom when we moved here. I wouldn't have to go to work and I could raise my children. But we didn't. We were living on one income. We didn't have 2 incomes. We just bought a home to renovate. And my husband said, Casey, how are you going to come up with all this money to buy your first rental property? So I started an Etsy shop. The room I'm in now used to be my craft room. And I started, I got a Cricut machine and I started making personalized items. Like I would get t-shirts. People see Disney t-shirts and
Yeah,
you've
yeah.
seen those Stanley Cups with the monograms. And I would do all those things, saved up 20 grand from doing that during my kids' naps and on the weekends for our first rental property. And because we had one income, because I did live through the market crash, being a real estate agent in California, I wanted my entrepreneurial journey in real estate first to be very safe and secure. I watched my parents make money throughout their lives and spend it all. I watched them retire with little savings, and I did
Mm,
not want that to be me. And I saw all these young 20-year-olds um, risking everything on social media, in real estate, or whatever they decided to do, and touting that as the end all be all, and that's the only way. That never sat right with me because I watched people lose millions of dollars during that '08 market crash
yeah.
in Southern California. I watched people lose entire portfolios. I watched them foreclose on all their homes, go into bankruptcy, and just lose all their self confidence and self worth, and having to wait 10 years to start over if they even had the guts to start over. So that level of risk was never something that I wanted to take. So when we bought our first rental property, it was in a higher quality area, B class neighborhood, which would be like a starter family neighborhood where everybody wants to live and the kids are out trick or treating, and they decorate for Christmas, and it's a very safe neighborhood. A lot of neighborhoods like that in the US, they don't cash flow. It's true. They cost more to buy and they don't cash flow, but luckily enough for me, we lived in outside of Memphis, and there are still cash flow areas available in Memphis. And so we bought our first rental property there, low risk, high quality. Well, the internet got to me just a little, social media. And over the years, I'm like, well, I've got to buy in, worse areas to make more cash flow year one. That's what I have to do because that's what everyone's saying to do. So we went to a C class neighborhood for I think it was our second purchase, second, third, and fourth. We bought in a C class neighborhood, and some people would call it a B class, but I am a realist when I label my A, B, C, and D class neighborhoods, right? A class is luxury gated community homes. D class is wear a bulletproof vest to go in, and then you've got B and C, in the middle. And B is obviously better than C, but C is still good and cash flows and all of that. So we bought in a C class neighborhood, and this is where my tenant hell from hell story comes in. We bought in a C class neighborhood because the cash flow on paper was good year one. It was like, wow,
Yep.
this is way more than my B class, property year one. This is great, and the house cost almost half. This is the way to go. So I bought my property there. I don't know if you want to jump in before I get into my story because
Go
it's
for it.
it's, it's a long one. Okay, okay. Oh my gosh, this I could talk an hour on, but I will not. I will cut it down. Okay. Tenant, it just makes me so mad every time I talk about it. All right, I bought this house. The house was nice. It cash flowed right out the gate. We didn't have to do any renovations to it. The carpet was very nice. It was what I call a grandma home. So grandma owned it for a very
Mm.
long time. She even converted the carport to a garage, and she covered the hardwood floors with nice white carpet, and it was
Oh,
all nice and clean. Yeah. One room was painted like, you know, what's the word? Like a red, like some sort of purpley red color, but it was fine. And I'm like, you know what? This is a C class neighborhood. I'm not going to go paint all the rooms. And one room was wood paneling. So I left it. It was very nice and clean, rent ready. So I put in these tenants. And at the time, being a C class neighborhood, I said, well, Casey, to myself, nobody in this neighborhood's going to have the credit score that you're looking for. Why even run their credit? Why even do the credit check? Because they all had bad credit. I just don't want to know. Okay. If they can show me 3 times the rent and income and I like them, then they're in. So got a couple. They were, quote, engaged. They're always engaged. They never get married, then they break up. So they were engaged. And the guy was in the military, and he was out of the military, but he had some disability. So he got a disability check every month from the military that would cover the mortgage. I'm like, cool. Like, this guy's going to he's not going to, even if he loses a job, they can at least pay the rent. And the woman, she was, she would work at Target, or then she would clean floors at a hospital. So she never had like a career. It was just always bouncing around different types of jobs. She had employment. It started from the very beginning. Second month, they didn't pay. They were late, but they had no problem paying the 10% late fee. So rent was, I think, $9.25 or so. They paid the $92.50 for their late fee. I'm like, okay. And then it would happen more and more often. This went on for about a year. And I was like, okay, well, at least they're paying, no big deal. Well, then, and I got to be careful how I say this. Okay, the husband cheated on her, or the fiance cheated on her. Okay, so she kicked him out. She was so mad. She cheated on him in her own house. She kicked him out. Now she had 2 kids, and the 2 kids were doing really well in school. And she's like, Casey, please, can I stay? I will go get another job. I will make up the income because my kids are doing well. So and so's on the honor roll. I don't really want to move out of the district. And I'm like, oh, okay, heartstrings, right? I'm the landlord. Okay, heartstrings, fine. So I let her stay. And for a while, things are good. And then here we go with the late payments again. Except this time, there was no fallback of the government check to pay the rent. And one time she said, oh, Casey, I'm so sorry. I don't have all of my amount to pay you because the gym membership, they auto debited my payment. I'm like, you're kidding me. So the gym gets paid first over where you live? And then I go to her house once to pick up rent because her car was broken down. She couldn't go to the bank. So I'm like, fine, I'll just go. I go inside. She has an 80-inch television in every room, an 80-inch TV. I have an 80-inch TV in every room and one in the garage. I'm like, that's 5 80-inch televisions. Holy cow. So she's obviously not being wise with her spending habits. Anyways, let's fast forward. At one point, this woman owes me $4,000. She has other people living there. The house, when I go pick up rent, is hot box. Smells like major weed cloud coming out. Like, did I get high standing at the door for 5 seconds? I don't know. I mean, maybe I did. And it got worse and worse. Finally, I said, look, lady, and I was very nice to her. And 5 years, I said, I'm not doing this anymore. If you are late, I'm going to evict you if you don't pay by Friday. And so, of course, she's been walking all over me this whole time. Why not continue to walk all over me? So she calls my bluff and she doesn't pay. Well, I was going on an airplane that day to go to California for my best friend's wedding. And I was going to be gone for 3 weeks. So I had no choice but to drive my butt down to court and file the paperwork. I wasn't going to serve her because maybe she'll pay. Here I am again. Maybe she'll pay. So she calls me or she texts me. I think it was on Facebook because she has so many phone numbers. The only reliable source of contact was Facebook. So she Facebooked me and said, Casey, I saw you filed on me. And I said, I did. Because I think she was trying to find a new place to live. And they probably ran her credit and saw that she had an eviction filed against her recently. I said, and I didn't know it was going to show up. But I said, because I didn't serve her, but apparently you don't have to be served. It still shows. And she said, yes, Casey. I said, yes, I filed on you. I told you didn't pay by Friday. It's Monday or Tuesday or whatever it was. So I said, look, if you can be out by next Friday and have all your stuff gone and cleaned up, we won't have to go to court. Just leave. Now she was paid up. She only didn't pay that month. So it's not like at the time she still owed me the $4,000. She had gotten that caught up, but I wasn't about to go down that road again. She leaves. We're still in California. We're coming back 2 days later. I send my mother-in-law, some 60-year-old woman in a $60,000 car, into this neighborhood to go, please go check and see if they're moving out because we're not home. Please go see. And she said she's driving her old like white lady in this nice car in this kind of sketch neighborhood, driving down, peeking in the windows, to see if they left. And they had left. I got confirmation that the keys were in the mailbox. So Blake and I show up in the house, and Blake's my husband. Whatever, Saturday when we fly in from the airport. I walk in the house and immediately I get jumped on by thousands of fleas. Thousands of fleas jump all over me. There's cockroaches running around, German ones, like I'm dirty cockroaches. She stole all of my appliances. She painted my kitchen cabinets. She put this sticky film all over the countertops that wouldn't come off. And they smoke so many different substances that she had stuck, the long incense sticks. She had stuck them in the walls, like in the drywall to make it smell better in there. Okay. And the carpets, they also had dogs. So right in the very beginning, I saw a doggy in the window as I drove by because I own the house across the street too. I was doing something over there. And I knock on the door. Hey, why is there a dog? And I was going to tell you. Sure you were. Okay. Pit bull. So I need $50 and I need you to get a renter's insurance with a pet rider because my insurance doesn't cover pit bulls. If the dog bites the neighbor's kid or something, I don't want to be liable for your dog.
Yep.
So she does that and she pays me $50 a month. Well, it wasn't one dog they ended up having, but it was several dogs. I don't know what they were doing with the dogs, but talking with the neighbor after they moved out, that last winter, the dogs had puppies. This is like so sad. The dogs had puppies. They had them in a crate on the side of a house, the puppies outside, and it froze one night and all 8 little puppies died. And the whatever guy that was living there now at the time put them in a trash bag and threw them in the trash can. This is what I'm hearing from the neighbor after the fact. And I
Brutal.
still give me the chills. I'm like, what is wrong with you? When my mother-in-law went to drive by and check on everything, the animal services, animal control was there because the tenant had left, but she had called animal control to pick up her dogs. The dogs were outside walking around in the front yard, and animal control was trying to get them, 4 or 5 pit bulls, adult, grown up, and they were emaciated. They looked like they were going to die. She took pictures. It was terrible. So, oh my God. They didn't ever let the dogs out, which means the dogs peed all over the house, everywhere. Pulled up the cart. Well, I didn't. I refused to fix that house up myself, let me tell you. So I called one of my friends who owns a property management company, and I said, can you please send your crew to renovate this house? Because I'm still mad about it that I'm not cleaning up after her, you know? So he sends a crew and someone, bags up all the carpet and the padding and pulls out the tack strips, and the wood floor is just unfinishable. So we had to lay
Correct.
LVP on top. Overall, oh, and she backed into the garage door, non-repairable, had to put in a new garage door, broke the glass security door that I'd put in the week that she was there. She said her kid hit it with a basketball. I don't know, it's probably true. Overall, it was 5 years, which is where I got my first gray hair, and $16,000 in renovations, right? Not including the months that I had to let the property sit there for all of the flea eggs to die off because it was infested with fleas in the baseboards and all that. So it was terrible. And that property, that horror story led me to the cake method because you know what? Quality over quantity. I
Mm.
don't care about the extra couple $100 a month if I'm getting tenants like that in that kind of neighborhood. So to me now, it's quality over everything. And that's one of the C in the cake method. It's an acronym, CAKE. The C stands for choose a quality neighborhood, a quality market. Quality is paramount. And that experience changed my entire investing philosophy. And I've been more open now to talking about my philosophy and not been so scared to say, oh, well, I don't BRRRR and I don't flip and I don't do all these fancy things that everybody does. Well, you know what? There's a reason why I don't do all those things. And I don't have the time to do the flipping and I don't want to do that. I want to be a passive investor. I want to spend my days swimming in the pool with my kids, reading books on the couch, sleeping in with them, hanging out, kisses, hugs, and snuggles. I don't want a full-time real estate job. And I'm not afraid to say that anymore. Passive investing for me. And give me that cash flow.
I absolutely love it. And I feel like there should be an HGTV series around that one story, that one 5 years of your life. But I mean, you probably learned enough wisdom from that bad experience to that you would have out of reading 50 real estate books, right? You have to get in there. You have to make the mistake, or hopefully you just get coached by Casey and then you don't have to make the mistake. But that's the way we learn. We had a strategy or a saying in our family because my mother and I have always been investment partners going back 25 years. And we had this very simple litmus test. And it went like this. We do the evaluation, we get ready to write the offer, and then we'd ask ourselves, could we feel safe sending mom into that neighborhood to serve a 3-day eviction notice on a Friday night at 7 o'clock after the sun had gone down, right? Or in the dark. And if we didn't feel comfortable sending mom there in the dark to serve an eviction notice, not necessarily because of those tenants, but because of the neighborhood, then we just wouldn't buy the property. And it was just a really easy model for us to follow that guided us for 25 years. Is it mom approved? Nope. Doesn't pass the mom test. Next property. But I think those lessons are so very valuable. I want to go back, if I could, Casey, to the beginning of this story, where you had an Etsy business. You saved $20,000 and you delayed gratification. In other words, you were building that business, you were saving, And you made a conscious decision not to go to Disneyland with that money. You made a conscious decision not to get a new Fendi purse with that money. You made a conscious decision not to buy the Prada shoes with that money. You made a conscious decision to save. And I want to just talk about that really quickly before I turn it over to you and ask and let you speak about that. Let me frame it with this. I did a podcast with a young financial advisor who at one point in his life after he graduated from college with a financial degree, he went and worked in public service as an internship, and he counseled senior citizens, people who had retired, and they didn't have enough cash flow every month to pay the bills. Between Social Security and whatever income and savings they had, they didn't have enough. And it was really traumatic for him. It was like you're screwed. I don't know what to do for you. Like, you should have changed course, 30 years ago. And what he told me on that podcast was, I learned through that experience the equation to be poor. And here it goes. Income minus spending equals savings. And conversely, I learned the equation to become wealthy. Income minus savings equals spending. In other words, if you put your savings on automatic payment like that tenant did for her gym membership, you end up saving. If you spend first and then save, you end up spending. So let's go back with your mindset. How did you come up with this delayed gratification and not spend what you were earning?
So, God, that's a good question. No one's really asked that before. How did I come up with that? Well, I guess I can say my dad was an entrepreneur his whole life. And he always taught me to do things differently, to not follow the crowd and do what everybody else is doing. So don't go get the 9 to 5 and work every day until you're 60 and have all the toys and do all the things and live paycheck to paycheck. Don't do that. You have to invest your money into other things, or life's going to get too expensive for you down the road. That's just how things work. You get inflation over time throughout your working career, your working life, but your income, when it does go up. But here's an example. I'm in my early 40s. And if I made $100,000 a year at a job, I think that'd be great. But my neighbor, she just graduated college a couple years ago, and she already makes 85. So her starting point would be at a higher price than what my starting point would be, just because I'm older. And when I started in the working career, $38,000 was what I was getting paid for my little job in the public relations firm in trendy old Newport Beach, So, but her starting job out of college was in the $80,000 range. So you have to plan for the future. The inflation isn't going to take care of you. It's going to make life harder. Things are going to cost more. People say, oh, well, if I, the 4% rule, if I have $1 million, I'm 40, when I have $1 million when I'm 60, it's going to be gravy. No, it won't. That $1 million is going to feel like chump change, because things are going to cost a lot. So I knew back then when I was younger that my dad said, you have to find other sources of income. Well, I knew that I wasn't going to be able to save my way to anything if I was only making $40,000 a year. So you have to have your money work for you. So you save the money, you invest it. You save the money, you invest it. And with that comes sacrifice. Sure. I mean, yeah, we delay gratification. We're like the cobbler. What's the thing? Like the shoe cobbler who fixes everyone else's shoes, but doesn't fix his own shoes. I mean, I hate to say it, but our house that we live in is nice now, but when we bought this house we live in now, it's been 12 years. The kitchen should have been a gut job when we bought our house. It should have been a gut job. I mean, it had 1950s cabinets that had been painted 100 times, painted over the hinges. It had blue Formica countertops and wallpaper, blue and yellow wallpaper. We left it like that for 8 years, Josh, because every single year that rolled around, I said, well, Blake, what are we going to do? We can either spend $30,000 and we can fix up our kitchen, or we can spend $30,000 and put that down on a rental property. And every time I said to myself, well, gosh, my new kitchen isn't going to make me money. So I guess I'm going to put that 30 towards a new rental property. And so we did that for the first 5 to 8 years. We 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 didn't fix our kitchen. We finally did fix it, and it looks amazing now. And guess what? We fixed it with all the cash flow from our rental properties. So, and we, we're not insanely rich. We have a few $1 million of net worth, but my neighbor down the street, she's still working paycheck to paycheck and living paycheck to paycheck, and she spends all her money, and she goes to Disney vacations, and she goes on vacations 3 or 4 times a year, and she has people come work on her home and do all these things, which is great. And I still wonder, like, okay, well, live now, live later. Where's the happy balance between all of those things? But you have to know that your future isn't going to get better if you don't do anything about it now. And I've
Mm.
always been a good saver. I never had debt. I did buy a brand new car when I was in college, and I made triple the payments on that and paid that in 3 years. Like, I never wanted to have debt. Again, I saw how my parents lived, spending all their money, and I was worried that that would be me. So I was always very careful to save my money, invest in real estate, put it in my husband's 401k or whatever, so that we would every day we think about how can we make more money for the future? How are we going to be set up for the future? And we are, like, right now our living situation is good. Technically, we're financially free, and there's definitely different levels of financial freedom, right? I can't go buy a yacht. I'm not yacht financially free, but I am financially free in the sense that if we never had a 9 to 5 job again, my husband still works, we'd be just fine with our rental income. So, and yeah, I want more. I want more money. I want better quality financial freedom and all those things. So, and it's still, I'm in my 40s, and I'm not, 100 dying. So we all have more time to make more money and do all those things, but it does come with sacrifice. And you can't always have your cake and eat it too if you aren't willing to do the work that's required.
Oh, I like how a cake and eat it too. You tied that back to your cake method. Nicely done. Yeah, I just think, we're talking to real estate investors that are just getting started. And you can't buy your first investment property if you're choosing to spend all of what would be your savings. That is the first step in this whole equation. Casey can't help you if you've squandered everything and you've got a home equity line and you've overspent. Like, you have to get that under control first. And for me, I had to fall in love with the 20-year future version or the 40-year future version of my life more than the current version of me overspending. So for me, it was that future vision that said, I don't need that car. I don't need that trip. I don't need that thing so other people think I'm cool, or I get a 2-day reprieve from my life. I can just be in love with who I'm becoming 20 or 30 years down the road.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Did you want to comment on that? Because I want to show a picture, but I want you to wrap this up.
Yeah. I don't know if I remember what I was going to say now, but I think I was going to say, see, I don't even remember now. I
Okay.
just forget it. Move on.
If it comes back to you,
If
you
it
bring
comes
it
back
up.
to me, I'll let you know. Yeah.
I want to show real quick, and those of you that are listening will narrate this, but there's this graphic on your website that I absolutely love. And I think you told me some funny story, like your husband sketched this on a piece of paper or something like that.
Yes. And then
But
he put it on my website for me. It was just a great reminder of how your rental income compounds. And people are always worried, well, if I spend all my down payment money, how am I going to get another one? It's like, no, you're not going to, scale to the moon and become financially free in 3 years, buying 10 properties a year, recycling the same funds over and over with the BRRRR method. Yes, in theory, it works. But for new investors, that's really not a good strategy. But the more properties you do have, the more money you're making, along with rental increases over time. You're making even more cash flow. And before you know it, every couple months, you're replenishing a down payment solely from your cash flow. And that's what this chart shows.
yeah, so for those of you that aren't looking at the chart, it's a triangle, if you will, and it's basically like, how do you scale up your rental properties? And it shows that, to buy the first property, and I think this was pretty true. You were saving about $1,000 a month from your Etsy business, if I recall. That after 20 months, you had $20,000 to buy the first house, but on the second house, you had $500 in passive income from the first house, plus the $1,000 a month you were earning from your Etsy income. Now it only took you 14 months to buy the second house. Then you carry $1,000 of passive income plus $1,000 of savings. Now it only takes you 10 months to buy the third house. And by the time you get to the 10th house in this equation, it only takes you 3 months to save because you've got your savings from your 9 to 5 plus the $500 a month in this example from the passive income of the 9 properties before. And now you're buying a home every 3 months. So what I love about that graphic and when I take that and put it on my investment career, that's exactly the way it worked. Like we started buying one house 1 year, and then it went to one house every 9 months. And then it went to, it got to the point where we're buying multiple houses a month because we've got cash flow, and then we'd refinance and we'd pull a bunch of money out and you'd scale. But that's how it works. You have to get the merry-go-wheel spinning before you get the momentum and you can speed up your pace of investment. It's slow in the beginning and fast in the end. But to see that in a visual format, I thought was brilliant.
Yeah. And our original goal was just to buy one a year for 10 years. And so by the end of the 10 year, we'd have $100,000 in income, which would replace my husband's job. And that was the goal. So we didn't have to work till he died, right? That was the goal. Well, one thing that I didn't really think of was that over time, rents go up. And so we were able to meet our goal with our $100,000 with 6 properties instead of 10, just because of using the cake method and buying quality properties in good areas where rents go up. I needed fewer properties than I thought in a shorter amount of time. So purposefully buying quality properties that are poised for appreciation and rent growth is really going to save you from having to buy more properties. Because really, if you talk to most people, more isn't better. You don't want more properties. You want more income with less properties. More properties, more problems, more air conditioners, more tenant turnovers, more repairs. If you could have fewer properties with more money, yes, you want the appreciation and all that from the properties, but really the goal is quality at a small amount. Like even Coach Carson, if you know Chad Carson, his small but mighty, philosophy is really small but mighty. You want that small but mighty portfolio, and we kind of share the same philosophy on that. But just wanted to throw that in there. Yeah.
100% agree with you. Okay. So this has been so fun. Let's go back to the cake method. So, we hit C, but walk us through A, K, E and what that means. And then let's bring it home. How does that fit into the small but mighty real estate portfolio that makes it so you don't have to be a full-time real estate professional? You can be snuggling with the kids and hanging out at the pool and enjoying life as well.
Yeah, exactly. So again, C stands for choose a quality neighborhood, a quality market, right? Quality is paramount throughout. It's the cornerstone of the cake method. A, go ahead. Do you want to say something?
Can I just add one more thing to that?
Yeah.
The thing about the quality neighborhood that's so important is a couple of things. Number one, those homes appreciate more. So even if you have a little less cash flow on paper, which is what Casey alluded to earlier, she got lured into what looked like more cash flow. And you're going to have less cash flow in a quality neighborhood at first because you're paying more for that house, right? And so you may have to sacrifice the cash flow, but you have less capital improvements because those people that live in that neighborhood don't do all the things that Casey explained on her,
my mind. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, in that other neighborhood. So you have less capital improvements. Yeah. You have more of a chance of people staying there and rents going up because that type of neighborhood has more upward mobility. And then when you get the property back, it's in good shape and you can immediately turn it around and re-rent it to another nice family. And so what you lose in the first 10 years in cash flow, you will more than make up in lack of having to put more capital improvements and appreciation. So I just wanted to really drive that point home.
I'm glad you did. And let me even dig even a little bit deeper since this really is a cornerstone of the cake method. So it didn't really take 10 years. Now, I will say this, you must cash flow from the beginning. I am not a fan of, alligator properties. No buying negative, just being a good neighborhood. okay, on purpose. Now, I guess I get it if you are renting out your current home and you have that 3% interest rate and you're negative a couple hundred, okay, whatever. But if you're purposefully buying real estate, do not purposefully on purpose go buy a negative cash flowing property. Like, don't do that. So, first of all, you have to have some cash flow. My minimum is 300 a month gross cash flow, right? To
Like
be
it.
acceptable. And that's not for $1 million property either, because that would be stupid, right? I'm talking affordable properties under 250, under $200,000. You should at least cash flow 300 a month. That doesn't mean that it has to be rent ready. You could still do some improvements to make the property higher quality, so you can get in that B class neighborhood, buy a house that needs work, increase the value of it, leave your loan alone, no refinancing, because if you refi, you're not going to cash flow anymore. So you can get in good neighborhoods by doing some renovations.
Mhm.
But anyways, you still have to cash flow. But that being said, people go, 300 bucks a month, that's not going to change my life. Well, it's not today. It's not this
Right.
year one. And that's when people make the big mistake, is they just look at year one cash flow. They go, well, I can go buy in the C or D class neighborhood and I can make 600 or 700 bucks a month. You're stupid,
Yeah.
Casey. I'm going to go do that. I'm like, go ahead. You do that. And then in 2 years, you tell me that you sold it and that you're sorry, because this is what happens. Okay. You give you the picture in the B class neighborhoods, right? You're going to have tenants that, well, I have tenants that touch up paint before they leave. They ask, oh,
Yeah.
can I hang a picture, with nails, or do you want me to use command strips? Okay. And they don't just nail up whatever they want. They don't stick incense in the crevices. They don't break the lease agreement. They are people that have life on their side. They are usually young couples, young professionals, or maybe a single mom with a few kids that wants better for her life. People that are not downtrodden on life. Those are the
Totally.
people that mostly, okay, live in the B class neighborhood. So they care about themselves. They care about their lives. They care about their credit score. They don't want to get evicted. They're not looking for free handouts. These are the
Yeah.
people that you want, these types of people, okay, in your properties. You want new college graduates. You want, newlyweds. You want stable families, that sort of thing. You're not looking to help people out. If people need help, they can get help from their parents, their friends, right? You're not their savior. And as a landlord, when you get into these situations where people are relying on their landlords for bailouts, that's a bad deal. So I could go off topic on that forever. We can do another episode one day on landlording. But anyways, so the bottom line is the B quality properties will have higher quality tenants, which means low turnover costs. And
That's
the
right.
biggest cost that investors have with rental properties is the turnover cost. It's not
Totally.
usually the upfront, oh, I bought the house, I got to put in a new air conditioner. Oh, that's cost so much money. No, no, no. Why? Because that's a capital improvement. You are improving the value of your property, putting on that new roof or the new driveway or all those things. It's the in between tenants that cost
Yeah.
people money. That's where the money is lost. And no one ever wants to talk about the tenant turnover cost, especially people that buy in these bad neighborhoods. People buy houses in these bad neighborhoods, they put them on credit cards. I'm sure you've heard of it. There's all sorts of gurus out there with massive Instagram and YouTube accounts that teach how to buy properties on credit cards. Well, you want to buy a $30,000 house on a credit card and renovate for $30,000 in a D-class neighborhood in a gay-infested area, you are going to be renovating that house for 30 grand again in just a couple years. So tell me now where your cash flow is, because those tenants mistreated your property. They stole your appliances. They had domestic violence. There's holes in the walls, doors missing. This is gone. That's gone. It's destroyed. Lost rent. People leave in the middle of the night, not paying their electric bill. I mean, OMG. And it's experiences like that where landlords get the bad rap. They
Yeah.
get the slumlord title and all these things. It's a two-way street. So me personally, I carry one iota about a $600 or $700 a month net cash flow in year one from those types of properties are going to cost me tens of thousands of dollars every time I turn over the property to a new tenant. And don't forget, those properties are not going to increase their value.
That's right.
That's why they're still cheap, and they're going to stay cheap. But in the rents, they stay flat 5, 6 years. You're not able to raise rents. They're the same for a long time. But guess what else is increasing? Home insurance, first of all. Okay, that's going to go up. So you think, you're getting rent and you're cash flowing $600, but you're going to be cash flowing that much money for 5 years before you can actually raise rent. And you're going to have increased expenses. You're going to have inflation. Things are going to cost more. People are going to charge more. And then you're going to have those horrible tenant turnover costs that are going to wipe out all your cash flow from all the previous years. So I stay away from that. And I want to go to tenants that love their life and want to treat their property better than I would, because they want their deposit back and they are very sweet and kind people. And it's been a dream. And my tenant turnover costs are zero. But the last turn, I mean, to a couple $100, the last turnover we had, we went in, I brought my Windex and some paper towels and one of those little white shop rags. And I walked around and I like wiped off the counter a little bit, backsplash, had some dust on the top in the kitchen. They touch up, painted everything. Now, I will say my husband, I do let them mount television. So he did go in, fill in the holes and, you know, do that part for the TV mount to repair. But that's it. That's the cost. And the property is rented right away because I have no downtime. So that's the difference between with quality properties. It really ties into your cash flow. This is me really digging into why quality, taking a little step further,
Yeah,
because the overall cost to operate rental properties is so much greater with those not so nice neighborhoods. So,
totally agree. Okay. AKE. Where do we go from here?
all right. A, add value. So we want to add value to our properties. There's a lot of ways you can add value. One of the easiest ways to add value is, well, if you're in the B-class neighborhood, just do nothing, but maintain your property. And you can add value by letting time do its thing and let appreciation and inflation take care of the value of your home. You can add value by doing nothing but maintaining it. So that's the easiest way. It takes longer, but you can. If you need added value now, you can make some improvements on the property, right? Add an extra bedroom, touch it up. You can go do as little or as much as you want to add value depending upon the property. Even just slapping on granite countertops and putting on nice new hardware in the kitchen is going to increase the value of your property because your kitchen's nicer. So you can do a little to a lot for adding value now, or just let time do its thing. That's A.
Love it. Okay. K.
All right, K. K is keep it. This is another big one with the cake
This is
method.
this is my favorite, by the way.
So K means keep it. And the way you keep it is to not put yourself in a position where you can't keep it, which means you need 30-year fixed debt. Okay. No 10-year balloon payments, no 5/1 arms that put you in a position to where you're not cash flowing because now you have a higher interest rate and you don't know what to do. You need to have 30-year fixed debt. That is just the easiest way to go. So you get yourself a good lender, you get a good interest rate, you get a good 30-year fixed debt, and you cash flow. And it does not matter what happens in the economy. It doesn't matter if housing prices drop 40% like they did in 2008. Right. Why? Because your mortgage is staying the same and you still have tenants paying rent. And you owned it for a while, even if rents go down a little bit, you're still able to cash flow. Or in the worst case scenario, in the worst potential market, maybe you're breaking even, but you are not going to lose your property, even in a market crash, if you have 30-year fixed debt and you're cash flowing. So that means, and I'm okay with refinancing, right? But I'm also not a refi until you die person. Some people want to refinance every time their house has 30,000 in equity and their payments getting higher and higher. And then they're over leveraging. Their entire portfolio is just, they owe bank loans. Like that's, oh, they got tons of properties, but they owe so much on them. So now think about if you're always owing the max, and we have something like the Great Recession, big market crash, and your rents do go down a bit, but your mortgage is consistently at the tippity top. Now your rents are below on all your properties and mortgage, and now you can't make the payments on them because you're negative, because you over leveraged yourself. So, this is a slow and steady wins the race. You do the right things, and there's like zero, I can't say don't do guarantees, but like slim chance of failure at this if you do this. And I don't like to lose money and all those things. So keep the property, no refi until you die, and 30-year fixed mortgage.
The reason why I said that is my favorite is because, as you know, Casey, we own, my mom and I own properties that we've owned for 25 years. And, the first 5 years, some days we're going, why do we do this? Like there's not a lot of cash flow there, but slowly over time, the mortgage amortizes and goes down and down and down. The mortgage payment stays the same and inflation pushes the rent up. And when you get into that, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. We now have a property that next year we'll have owned for 25 years, and the rent has gone up 500%. 500%. And you start looking at that difference in that cash flow. This property that I'm talking about, when we bought it, the monthly income was $2,400 a month. Today, the monthly income is almost $13,000 a month. You never get there if you skip the keep it part and you get lured in by like, oh, here's something new. Let's go move the money into Bitcoin, or let's go move the money into this, that, or the other. So like slow and steady wins the race. Put solid debt on properties in good areas and keep it for a long time. So thank you for that. I love that part of the cake method. E.
Last one, E. So E, I bet you can guess, is earn, right? That's like the best part about it. Like, why do we do this? It's not a charity. We do it to provide a good service to people and to earn an income. So there's several ways to earn, right? Obviously, we know we earn through monthly cash flow. We know that we earn through equity growth over time. We've even heard we earn through some tax benefits. But
Yes.
there's one more way that is obvious, but is glossed over and not really talked about. And I want to bring home the fact that you are earning the entire rent check. Okay. People go, oh, only 100, 200, 300 bucks a month in cash flow. Or yeah, appreciation over 10 years and 300 bucks isn't going to change my life. Well, look, your rent check that person gave you, let's say was $1,500. You're not just getting 300 bucks. You're getting $1,500. Okay. You're getting all that to pay for all the things for the property. So basically your property, the tenant is paying your property for you. They're paying for the repairs, unbeknownst to them, really, right? They're your saved cash flow. They're paying for the mortgage, for the property taxes, for the home insurance. They're paying for the future upgrades and the granite countertops you put on down the line. You're getting the entire rent check. And next year, we'll mark in 2026, we'll mark $1 million collected in rents for me. And I added that up the other day and I was like, oh my gosh, $1 million collected, Now, yeah, I didn't get $1 million in cash flow, but we can't forget how much money we're actually collecting and how we're using it. That is, we have collected nearly $1 million now that we have used to buy down these properties, and they are paying for themselves. So you're able to earn in a lot of different ways.
I love it. Great. I mean, it's just such a simple acronym, but encompasses so much of the wisdom and saves people from so many of the landmines. I absolutely love it, right? Does it follow this formula? Pass. If it meets the formula, buy it. Let's go. Um, Casey, I know it's been a great interview when, we're about out of time and I feel like we could go another couple hours. So thank you for sharing so generously. I want to leave you with the advice to the person who just can't take action, the paralysis by analysis person. How do you help the people that you're coaching? Because I'm sure people come to you, pay you money for coaching, and they still are stuck with inertia. Like they just can't do the thing. So how do you help people through that? And what advice would you give for people that you're not currently coaching on how to actually get going?
Oh, good question, Josh. So the reason why people don't take action is because they're unsure. They're afraid of the
Yeah.
unknown. There are unknown answers that they don't have the answers to. I mean, if you could, I don't know, what would be a good example? Get in a car race and you've never raced before, but you might, if okay, you might not stop fast enough, you hit the wall and die. Okay, let's pretend you're a crash dummy. Would you have the guts to go do that if you didn't know you would stop in time? But if you knew for a fact that you'd stop in time, sure, you go do it. Okay. So the
Mm-hmm.
problem with people, that might have been a really bad example. I'm off the top of my head. But the problem with people not taking action or analysis paralysis is they don't know the answer. They don't know the outcome. So, and how could you be expected to know the outcome if you've never bought a rental property before, especially
Yeah.
if you have to buy one out of area? Like a lot of my students live on the East and the
Mm,
West Coast. It's expensive.
totally.
No, you're not going to be able to buy an $800,000 condo in Orange County, California in cash flow. It's not. I know that. So you're going to have to buy in more affordable areas, the flyover states, the Midwest, down to the South. Like that's where it is, just where it is. And one day those places will be unaffordable too, and will be a a nation of renters. That's what I think is going to be coming to. So you better buy your houses now. So what you have to do if you're just starting out and you're stuck in analysis paralysis is it's understandable that you're stuck there. You can't be expected to know all the answers. But what you need to do is there's two choices. One, you can just try it and fail yourself forward, right? Like I did. When I started a long time ago, I barely even knew about Facebook. Like it was barely a thing back in the early 2000s. Long story, but quickly, before we even moved to Memphis, my husband and I were making offers on properties in California, but I was too scared to actually close on any. We had written 40 offers. I was a real estate agent, so I let myself in and wrote up my own offers, and we were in contract on some, backed out on some, and then went all the way. Why didn't we go all the way and actually close on one of these properties that would have definitely cash flowed when they actually could cash flow in California? Well, I was scared because I didn't have the answers. Well, what happens if nobody wants to rent my place? What if I'm wrong in the rent estimate? What if I buy a money pit? Like, even though I think I know all the answers, I didn't have anyone to help validate my answers. It was just me. And what if I'm wrong? I didn't know anybody who owned rentals. The only person I knew was my friend Mikey's grandma. He said she owned 10 rentals. I never even met the grandma. So I couldn't ask anybody for help. There were people in my real estate office who owned like their condos that they rented out, but it wasn't a purposeful purchase for cash flow. Mm-hmm. So I had no one to ask. And like I said, the internet, social media was new. I didn't know of anyone that could help me coaching or anything online. Like that was pretty new. Now it's still new, coaching, online coaching world. So people are stuck not making progress because they don't have anyone to help. Well, nowadays with social media, with all these courses and coaching, all the things that are out there, which they are. The cool thing is that there's people that can help you now. So there is no excuse. You don't have to. Oh my gosh, Josh, those houses in California that I made offers on were $145,000 in the early 2000, mid 2000, 2008, 9, 10. Okay. They're $600,000 and $700,000 now. They rented for $1,400 then. Now they're $3,000 to $4,000 a month. I would be in a much different position right now, financially, like big baller, if I would have bought those freaking properties and not been a wuss. So not that I was a wuss, but I had analysis paralysis. I was unsure. I was scared. I had no one to help validate me, so I didn't buy anything. It was another 10 years before I bought something because that's when I finally had the confidence to do it. I had more experience in real estate. I'm like, I'm just going to do it now. And I still made the mistake with the tenant nightmare story and some others. Not as bad as that one, but still made some others, and I'm still overly cautious now. So dang it, if you're out there and you're wanting to get started, you just need to get some help if you can't do it yourself. So what? Pay for a coach, find an online course, find a friend, put something out there on your Facebook group or your Instagram that you're looking to invest. Can anybody help you if you don't pay for a coach? You might know somebody in your own network that can help you. You don't have to work with me, but I want people that financial freedom and even getting to retirement without debt, without having to work till you die, is not going to come from most people just having a regular job and saving. You cannot, no longer can you save your way to retirement. That's a 1950s, 60s, and 70s mentality. It is not working anymore. You will work until you die if you do not have your money work for you. So wherever you are at in life, you just have to get started.
Amen, sister. Yeah, the best time to buy a rental property was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. Because in 20 years, you're going to be going, gosh, I wish I would have bought a property in 2025. I can't believe what's happened to rents and happened to prices over the last 20 years. So you got to get in the game. And I actually thought, Casey, your analogy of the race car, driving a car on a racetrack was a really good analogy, because I have been down to the Las Vegas Motor Speedway multiple times, and they let you get in these like Lamborghinis and crazy Ferraris, and you drive around the race course with a professional driver in the passenger seat. And they tell you exactly where to brake before you accelerate into the turn. And I'm trying to put on the brakes, and they're saying, quit being a wussy, you gas it until I tell you not to. But they tell you when to brake, when to accelerate, how to turn, not to overturn. And that was a really good analogy for me. Like having somebody like that in the passenger seat while I'm driving gave me tremendous confidence. And the same thing is true in real estate investing. If you have somebody in the passenger seat that's a professional investor and they're giving you guidance, you're going to have more confidence. Your lap speed's going to be a lot faster.
That's right. Less chance of risk, less chance of making huge, costly mistakes. And that really is the goal, especially with first time real estate investors, because a lot of times they have this, $30 to $50,000. And that's, I mean, that's what they got.
Yeah.
And they might have more, but that's what they finally got enough for a rental. And by golly, if they lose it, they'll be crushed.
Yep.
So people are afraid to buy something because what if all the things, what if, what if, what if? Well, if you have somebody that can help you say, don't do that, don't do that, do this instead, watch out for this, or bring things to light that you might not have thought of that could save your butt, like it's worth it. It is worth it because that is your little nest egg and it's going to be hard to replenish that again. So you got to make sure you get a good solid foundation for your first rental property, a good market, a good real estate team to trust your partners so that you can scale it and buy more and more. But if you start off with a failed property in a bad market, because you got bad advice or try to do it by yourself, it's cool, but it's just going to take you more time to recover. So if you want to kind of speed it up and get, past the failures, skip the failure part, get someone to help you, which I wish I would have taken that plunge 20 years ago and bought in those freaking California houses. I'll tell you that.
Amen. Amen. All right. Well, Casey, your Instagram page is absolutely fantastic. Like there's $1 million worth of free advice up there. So tell people where they can find you.
So you can find me on Instagram, Brick by Brick Wealth. I also put out weekly YouTube videos, Brick by Brick Wealth, and it's all on how to get started with real estate. It's all, of course, real estate. I love to teach real estate. I put my heart and soul on my YouTube page. So definitely go check those out. And then also, if you're looking for coaching or you want to see what I have to offer, you can see everything on my website, brickbybrickwealth.com. I also have a deep masterclass that really goes in depth on the cake method. It's a free masterclass, no strings attached. You can find that on my website too.
You're crazy not to do that. I mean, you should take the free masterclass because there's gold in there. Casey, thanks for coming back. It was a great experience having you the second time, and I feel like we just get deeper and deeper into these conversations. So we'll do it again sometime in the future. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you so much.